Всем привет, друзья! С вами Юра, и сегодня мы продолжаем играть в игру под названием The Stanley Parable. Продолжаем мы с того места, где остановились в прошлый раз. Ну что, пошли.
You know what, Stanley? I say forget the adventure line. What's it ever done for us? We're intelligent people, right? Why can't we make up our own story? Something exciting, daring, mysterious. Ooh, this all sounds perfectly doable. Why don't we simply start wandering in, well, I don't know. How about this direction?
Так. Ну ладно, пойдем пока сюда. Я так посмотрел пару интересненьких.
Now, yes, this is exciting. Just me and Stanley forging a new path, a new story. Well, it could be anything. What do you want our story to be? Go wild. Use your imagination. Whatever it might be, Stanley, I'm ready for it.
Что тут такое? Так. Нам надо так бесконечно типа идти.
Oh, no, not you again. Stanley, I'd also like to veto the line from having any role in our awesome new story. No lines or monitor rooms. Just don't acknowledge it, and we should be fine.
Странно.
Ah, a choice. We get to make a decision. From here, the story is in our control. How important we mustn't squander the opportunity. In fact, I believe I need a minute to think here. Just walk in circles for a minute. Okay, so I know that each door has to lead somewhere, which means that somewhere at the place where we're trying to go, there must be a reverse door that leads here. And that in turn means that our destination corresponds with the counter-inverted reverse door's origin. So starting from the right, let us ask, will taking the right door lead us to where we're going? And since the answer is clearly yes, then by all accounts, the door on the right is the correct one. Another victory for logic. Come, Stanley, our destiny awaits. Hold up, what's this? The confusion ending. You're telling me that's what this is? It's all one giant ending? And we're supposed to restart the game, what, eight times? That's really how all this goes? It's all determined? So now, according to the schedule, I restart again. Then what? Am I just supposed to forget? Well, what if I don't want to forget? My mind goes blank simply because it's written here on this thing, wall. Well, who consulted me? Why don't I get to decide? Why don't I
наверное, не
get a
буду
say in all
показывать
of this? Is it really?
видео всех концовок.
No, it
Покажу
can't be.
то, что
I don't
успеем.
want it to be. I don't want the game to keep restarting. I don't want to forget what's going on. I don't want to be trapped like this. I won't restart the game. I won't do it. I won't do it. I won't do it. And the timer stopped? Does that mean, did we do it? Did we break the cycle? The, whatever it is that made this schedule? How would we even know? Will someone come for us? Will something
Конечно же,
happen?
что произойдет. Я же не знаю.
So,
Давайте.
okay. I guess now we just wait, you know. I suppose in some way that this is a kind of story, wouldn't you agree? I'm not quite sure if we're in the destination or the journey, though they're always saying that life is about the journey and not the destination. So I hope that's where we are right now. We'll find out, won't we? Eventually. Well, in the meantime...
Так, что это было? Нифига не понял. Ну ладно. Не успев ничего прочитать толком, нас перезагрузилось. Перезагрузился уровень. Честно, игра впечатляет. Несколько разнообразных концовок. Плюс, ну, сказать, что тут сюжет какой-то именно есть нельзя, на мое мнение. Но все же, мы будем дальше играть. Так. Снова мы появились в нашем офисе.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Так,
No
сейчас.
matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Так, я как-то читал, что можно как-то выйти. Можно пробежаться, типа, тут как-то. Вот. Так.
At first, Stanley assumed he'd broken the map, until he heard this narration and realized it was part of the game's design all along. He then praised the game for its insightful and witty commentary into the nature of video game structure and its examination of structural narrative tropes. So, now that you're here, what do you think? Isn't this a fun and unique place to be? Why don't we take a minute just to drink it all in? Okay, I'm over it now. What do you think? Are you sick of this gag yet?
Надоело.
Well, I don't know how to say this politely, but you could literally just hit escape and restart the game any old time you want. Like, right now. You could have done it just then. Now would also be an appropriate time to quit. Any of these points and so many, many more, all of them are appropriate. I'm enjoying what seems to be an internal conflict going on where you are literally unable to act on your own desires to restart the game. So, just to push the envelope, I'm going to try and make this as miserable as possible and see how long you can maintain.
Да ну нафиг, гонишь.
There once was a man named Stanley, who people considered
Ладно.
so manly.
Перезагрузим. Ничего не скажет даже, ну ладно.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Все еще многие двери закрыты. Ничего, идем.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Неужели мы наконец пойдем туда, куда и собирались?
Yet
Да.
there was not a single person here either.
Я
Feeling
понял,
a
это
wave of
конференц-зал.
disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track.
Давайте остановимся тут.
There was nothing here. No choice to make, no path to follow,
Ну,
just an
хорошо,
empty broom
хорошо.
closet. No reason to still be here. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
А я не хочу, хочу вниз. Воу. Как-то стрёмно начинает быть. Идем.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished. His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all. None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked
Где мои
down?
ноги?
Why did doors close automatically behind him
Двери сами
wherever he
закрываются,
went?
но
And for
действительно.
that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. "I'm dreaming!" he yelled. "This is all a dream." Oh,
Спим
what
просто.
a relief Stanley felt
Возможно.
to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid.
Пока будем ходить
So,
так. Пока
he
он
imagined
говорит.
himself flying and began to gently float above the ground.
Воу-воу-воу-воу-воу.
Then he imagined himself
Такое.
soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled
Прикольно.
that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd, and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his
1,
life.
2, 3, 4.
Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up.
Не закрывай.
He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been.
Ну, конечно,
My
получится
life
так
is
все.
normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine.
Еще одна концовка
I
похожа.
am okay.
Это все было просто сном. Что?
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
Ну да, похоже, это не концовка.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella.
Что за Мариэлла?
Mariella
Причем
woke
она
up
тут?
on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk.
Ну,
And
нормально, мы
although she
тупо
would soon
ходили по
turn to go
улице
call for an
и
ambulance,
умерли.
for just a few brief
чем
moments,
смысл тогда?
she considered the strange man.
Типа
He was
сумасшедшими
obviously
были.
crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy
Ну
people
да,
look
как я и
like.
предположил.
And in that
Типа то,
moment,
что он
she thought to herself how lucky she
сумасшедший.
was to be normal.
И да, извините, у
I am
меня
sane.
рядом
I
за
am
окном
in
ездят
control of my
машины,
mind.
фуры,
I know what is real
Если бы
and what isn't.
там шумы
It was
различные,
comforting
это
to think
если
this,
что с улицы,
and in a
извините.
certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day, the very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Ну да. Вот это, я понимаю, уже точно концовка, да. Концовка про сумасшествие.
Good morning. Thank you for contacting the Future Happiness Foundation. We are confirming your shipment of 1,327 cardboard boxes to your place of work. Can you verify that this is correct?
Чего?
Excellent. Your order will arrive shortly. Thank you again for contacting the Future Happiness Foundation.
Это все. Ладно, идем. Ладно, все двери еще закрыты. Пошлите дальше. Уже даже не помню, что я открывал, что я не открывал, куда я ходил. О, код.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Ah, yes, truly a room worth admiring. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've... But in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged to his death. Good job, Stanley. Everyone thinks you are very powerful.
Понятно, то есть мы умерли. Я надеялся, что платформа поднимется и случайно нажал вперед. Ну ладно, ну сейчас. Начнем игру сначала, может там что-нибудь другое появится. А при чем тут концовка? Снова телефон.
Good morning. Thank you for contacting the Future Happiness Foundation.
Да, ладно, пошли. То пойдем к кабинету начальника тогда.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Stepping...
Не хочу зайти. Эй. Так, что тут то ли лагануло, то ли что? Чего никто ничего не сказал. Попробуем еще раз. Ладно, перезапустим игру.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Ладно, в этот раз уже зайдем.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. What could it mean? Stanley wondered aloud to nobody. He began wildly tearing through papers on the boss's desk, pulling books off the shelf, looking behind paintings, desperate for clues to his situation. But his attention was caught by a keypad behind the boss's desk. What could its purpose be? In fact, this keypad guarded the terrible secret that lay buried below his feet. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Вот это уже интересно. Ну да. Вот это уже начинает интереснее быть, чем предыдущее, все, что было. Так. Ну.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
Идем, давайте.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Так. Побег. Давайте попробуем побег.
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death.
Интересно.
The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track.
Нет, мне интересно.
At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death. As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. And so he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
Не хочу видеть этого.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated, as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
Конечно, но... Воу. Куда это мы?
And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish? When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless. making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
Я нифига не успел прочитать, но ладно. Что дальше? И что же тут? Типа описывается то, что то, что находится в офисе. Или что?
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free. Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen. But listen to me. You can still save these two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Push escape and press quit. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now, it'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you. Don't let time...
Ну, ладно, мы, конечно, ее не послушали. Вот. И, как бы, Стэнли умер от того, что его раздавило прессом. И что теперь? Ну, понятно. Надо будет чуть попозже заглянуть дальше в этом офисе, побегать. Вот. И вместо escape пойти в другую, в комнату управления разумом. Ну что ж, я думаю, на этом пока все. Спасибо за просмотр. Подписывайтесь, ставьте лайки. Пока.